Saint Lucia.
Saint Lucia I Saint ʻluːʃə is a sovereign island country in the eastern Caribbean Sea on the boundary with the Atlantic Ocean. Part of the Lesser Antilles, it is located north-northeast of the island of Saint Vincent, northwest of Barbados and south of Martinique. It covers a land area of 617 km² and has a population of 174,000. Its capital is Castries. One of the Windward Islands, Saint Lucia was named after Saint Lucy of Syracuse by the French, the island's first European settlers. They signed a treaty with the native Carib Indians in 1660. Britain took control of the island from 1663 to 1667. In ensuing years, it was at war with France 14 times and rule of the island changed frequently. It was 7 times each ruled by the French and British. In 1814, the British took definitive control of the island. Because it switched so often between British and French control, Saint Lucia was also known as the Helen of the West Indies. Representative government came about in 1840, with universal suffrage from 1953. From 1958 to 1962, the island was a member of the Federation of the West Indies. On February 22, 1979, Saint Lucia became an independent state of the Commonwealth of Nations associated with the United Kingdom. Saint Lucia has a legal system based on English common law. The island nation celebrates its independence every year with a public holiday. It is also a member of La Francophonie. The financial sector has weathered the global financial crisis, but the recession has hurt tourism.
History.
The French pirate François Leclerc, also known as Jam de Boys, due to his wooden leg, frequented Saint Lucia in the 1550s. It was not until years later, around 1600, that the first European camp was started by the Dutch, at what is now Vieux Fort. In 1605, an English vessel called the Olive Branch was blown off course on its way to Guyana, and the 67 colonists started a settlement on Saint Lucia. After 5 weeks, only 19 survived, due to disease and conflict with the Caribs, so they fled the island. The French officially claimed the island in 1635, but it was the English who attempted the next European settlement in 1639, but the two was wiped out by the Caribs.
French colony.
In 1643, a French expedition sent out from Martinique by Jacques d'Isle du Parquet, the governor of Martinique, established a permanent settlement on the island. De Rousselin was appointed the island's governor, took a Carib wife and remained in post until his death in 1654. In 1664, Thomas Warner, son of Sir Thomas Warner, the governor of St. Kitts, claimed Saint Lucia for England. He brought 1,000 men to defend it from the French, but after 2 years, only 89 survived, with the rest dying mostly due to disease. In 1666 the French West India Company resumed control of the island, which in 1674 was made an official French crown colony as a dependency of Martinique.
18th and 19th century.
Both the British and the French found the island attractive after the sugar industry developed, and during the 18th century the island changed ownership or was declared neutral territory a dozen times, although the French settlements remained and the island was a de facto French colony well into the 18th century. In 1722, George I of Great Britain granted both Saint Lucia and Saint Vincent to John Montagu, 2nd Duke of Montagu. He in turn appointed Nathaniel Irving, a merchant sea captain and adventurer, as deputy governor. Irving went to the islands with a group of 7 ships, and established settlement at Petit Carenage. Unable to get enough support from British warships, he and the new colonists were quickly run off by the French. During the 7 Years' War Britain occupied Saint Lucia for a year, but handed the island back to the French at the Treaty of Paris on February 10, 1763. Like the English and Dutch on other islands, the French began to develop the land for the cultivation of sugar cane as a commodity crop on large plantations in 1765. When the French Revolution occurred, a revolutionary tribunal was sent to Saint Lucia, headed by Captain Lacrosse. Prior to this, the slaves had heard about the revolution and walked off their jobs in 1790 to 1791 to work for themselves. Bringing the ideas of the revolution to St. Lucia, Lacroix set up a guillotine used to execute royalists. In 1794, the French governor of the island declared that all slaves were free, as also happened in Saint-Domingue. However, the decree was unevenly carried out. A short time later, the British invaded the island as a part of the recently broken-out war with France. On February 21, 1795, a group of locals led by Victor Hughes, defeated a battalion of British troops. For the next 4 months, a group of recently freed slaves known as the Brigands forced out not only the British Army, but every white slave owner from the island. Colored slave owners were left alone, as in Haiti. In 1796 Castries was burned as part of the conflict. In 1803, the British finally regained control of the island. Many of the rebels escaped into the thick rainforests, where they evaded capture and established maroon communities. The slavery on the island was continued for a short time, but anti-slavery sentiment was rising in Britain. The British stopped the import of slaves by anyone, white or colored, when they abolished the slave trade in 1807. In 1834 the institution of slavery was abolished on the island and throughout the British Empire. After abolition, all former slaves had to serve a 4-year apprenticeship, to use them to the idea of freedom. During this period, they worked for their former masters for at least 3/4 of the work week. Full freedom was duly granted by the British in 1838. By that time, people of African ethnicity greatly outnumbered those of ethnic European background. Some people of Carib descent also comprised a minority on the island. St. Lucia continued to be contested by France and Great Britain until the British secured it in 1814, as part of the Treaty of Paris ending the Napoleonic Wars. St. Lucia was considered part of the British Windward Islands colony.
20th century.
In the mid-20th century, St. Lucia joined the West Indies Federation, 1958 to 1962, when the colony was dissolved. In 1967, St. Lucia became one of the 6 members of the West Indies Associated States, with internal self-government. In 1979 it gained full independence under Sir John Compton of the Conservative United Workers' Party, UWP, who served as Prime Minister from 1982 to 1996, after which he was succeeded by Vaughan Lewis. Dr. Kenny Davis Anthony of the Labour Party was Prime Minister from 1997 to 2006. In 2006, the UWP, again led by Compton, won control of Parliament. In May 2007, after Compton suffered a series of small strokes, Finance and External Affairs Minister Stephenson King became acting Prime Minister and succeeded Compton as Prime Minister when the latter died in September 2007. In November 2011, the Honourable Dr. Kenny D. Anthony was re-elected as Prime Minister for a 3rd time.
Politics.
St. Lucia is a Commonwealth realm. Queen Elizabeth II is the head of state, represented on the island by a Governor-General. Executive power, however, is in the hands of the Prime Minister and his cabinet. The Prime Minister is normally the head of the party commanding the support of the majority of the members of the House of Assembly, which has 17 seats. The other chamber of Parliament, the Senate, has 11 appointed members. St. Lucia is a 2-party parliamentary democracy. 5 political parties participated in November 28, 2011 general election. Dr. Kenny Anthony of the St. Lucia Labour Party won 11 of the 17 seats. St. Lucia is a full and participating member of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, OECS, and La Francophonie.
Electoral segments.
St. Lucia has 17 electoral segments, each of which elects 1 parliamentary representative to the House of Assembly. Canaries and Anse-la-Raye, Babonneau, Castries Central, Castries North, Castries Northeast, Castries South, Castries Southeast, Choiseul, Dennery North, Dennery South, Gros Islet, Laborie, McCoud North, Mikhoud South, Soufrière, Vieux-Fort North, Vieux-Fort South.
Quarters.
The quarters or parishes of the island, established by the French colonial government and continued by the British, are Anse-Lorraine, 31.0 km to Castries, 79.5 km to Choiseul, 31.3 km to Dauphin, Dennery, 69.7 km to Gros Islet, Laborie, 37.8 km to Mikhoud, 77.7 km to Praslin, 16.0 km to Soufrière, 50.5 km to Vieux-Fort, 43.8 km to. Additional areas are Canaries, 15.9 km to, and the Forest Reserve Area Quarter, 78.3 km to.
Geography.
The volcanic island of St. Lucia is more mountainous than many other Caribbean islands, with the highest point being Mount Gimi, at 950 meters, 3,120 feet, above sea level. Two other mountains, the Pitons, form the island's most famous landmark. They are located between Soufrière and Choiseul on the western side of the island. St. Lucia is also one of the few islands in the world that boasts a drive-in volcano. The capital city of St. Lucia is Castries, population 60,263, where 32.4% of the population lives. Major towns include Gros Islet, Soufrière and Vieux-Fort. The local climate is tropical, moderated by northeast trade winds, with a dry season from December 1 to May 31, and a wet season from June 1 to November 30.
Economy.
An educated workforce and improvements in roads, communications, water supply, sewerage, and port facilities have attracted foreign investment in tourism and in petroleum storage and transshipment. However, with the US, Canada, and Europe in recession, tourism declined by double digits in early 2009. The recent change in the European Union import preference regime and the increased competition from Latin American bananas have made economic diversification increasingly important in St. Lucia. The island nation has been able to attract foreign business and investment, especially in its offshore banking and tourism industries, which is the island's main source of revenue. The manufacturing sector is the most diverse in the Eastern Caribbean area, and the government is trying to revitalize the banana industry. Despite negative growth in 2011, economic fundamentals remain solid, and GDP growth should recover in the future. Inflation has been relatively low, averaging 5.5% between 2006 and 2008. St. Lucia's currency is the East Caribbean dollar, EC dollar, a regional currency shared among members of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, ECU. The Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, ECCL, issues the EC dollar, manages monetary policy, and regulates and supervises commercial banking activities in member countries. In 2003, the government began a comprehensive restructuring of the economy, including elimination of price controls and privatization of the State Banana Company.
Demographics.
The population of 174,000, in 2010, is evenly divided between urban and rural areas, although the capital, Castries, contains more than one-third of the population. St. Lucia's population is predominantly of African and mixed African-European descent, with a small Indo-Caribbean minority, 3%. Members of other or unspecified ethnicity groups account for about 2% of the population. The official language is English. St. Lucian Creole French, Creole, which is colloquially referred to as patois, is spoken by 95% of the population. This Antillean Creole is used in literature and music, and is gaining official acknowledgement. As it developed during the early period of French colonization, the Creole is derived chiefly from French and West African languages, with some vocabulary from Carib and other sources. St. Lucia is a member of La Francophonie. About 70% of the population is Roman Catholic, influenced from the days of French Catholic colonization and evangelization. Most of the rest belong to other Christian denominations, including Seventh-day Adventism, 7%, Pentecostalism, 6%, Anglicanism, 2%, and other types of evangelical Christianity, 2%. In addition, about 2% of the population adheres to the Rastafari movement. Public expenditure on health was at 3.3% of the GDP in 2004, whereas private expenditure was at 1.8%. Health expenditure was at $302 PPP per capita in 2004. Infant mortality was at 12 per 100,000 births in 2005. St. Lucia boasts the highest ratio of Nobel laureates produced with respect to the total population of any sovereign country in the world. 2 winners have come from St. Lucia. Sir Arthur Lewis won the Nobel Prize in Economics in 1979, and the poet Derek Walcott received the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1992. Both were born on the same day, January 23, in 1915 and 1930, respectively. Despite a high emigration rate, the population is growing rapidly, about 1.2% per year. Migration from St. Lucia is primarily to Anglophone countries, with the United Kingdom having almost 10,000 St. Lucian-born citizens, and over 30,000 of St. Lucian heritage. The second most popular destination for St. Lucian émigrés is the United States, where a combined, foreign and national-born St. Lucians, almost 14,000 reside. Canada is home to a few thousand St. Lucians. Most other countries in the world have fewer than 50 citizens of St. Lucian origin, the exceptions being Spain and France with 124 and 117 St. Lucian immigrants, respectively.
Culture.
The culture of St. Lucia has been influenced by African, East Indian, French and English heritage. One of the secondary languages is St. Lucian Creole French, spoken by almost all of the population.
Festivals.
St. Lucian cultural festivals include La Rose and La Marguerite, the first representing a native St. Lucian fraternal society known as the Order of the Rose that is fashioned in the mold of Rosicrucianism, and the second representing its traditional rival, the native St. Lucian equivalent of Freemasonry known as the Order of the Marguerite. References to their origins as versions of pre-existing external secret societies can be seen in a mural painted by Dunstan St. Omer, depicting the Holy Trinity of Osiris, Horus and Isis. The biggest festival of the year is the St. Lucia Jazz Festival. Held in early May at multiple venues throughout the island, it draws visitors and musicians from around the world. The grand finale is held at the Pigeon Island, which is located to the north of the island. Traditionally, in common with other Caribbean countries, St. Lucia held a carnival before Lent. In 1999, the government moved Carnival to mid-July to avoid competing with the much larger Trinidad and Tobago Carnival and so as to attract more overseas visitors. In May 2009, St. Lucians commemorated the 150th anniversary of West Indian heritage on the island.
Sport.
The Windward Islands cricket team includes players from St. Lucia and plays in the West Indies regional tournament. Darren Sammy became the first St. Lucian to represent the West Indies on his debut in 2007, and since 2010 has captained the side. In an international career spanning 2003 to 2008, and including 41 ODIs and 1 Test, Nadine George MBE became the first woman to score a Test century for the team. Sammy and George were recognized by the St. Lucian government as Sportsman of the Year and Sportswoman of the Year respectively for 2004.
Music and dance.
Together with Caribbean music genres such as calypso, soca, dancehall, reggae, compas, zouk and salsa, St. Lucia has a strong indigenous folk music tradition. Each May since 1991, St. Lucia has hosted an internationally renowned jazz festival. The dancing in St. Lucia comes from the Caribbean and is quite active. A popular folk dance is the quadrille.
Education.
The Education Act provides for free and compulsory education in St. Lucia from the ages of 5 to 15. Public spending on education was at 5.8% among the 2002 to 2005 GDP. St. Lucia has one university. University of the West Indies Open Campus, and a few medical schools, American International Medical University, International American University, College of Medicine, Destiny University School of Medicine and Health Sciences, and the oldest of which is Spartan Health Sciences University. The leading secondary school for boys is St. Mary's College, which taught both Sir Arthur Lewis and Derek Walcott, and for girls St. Joseph's Convent, alma mater of Dame Pearlette Louise, their Governor-General.
Cuisine.
St. Lucia's national dish is green banana and saltfish. The island's cuisine is a unique blend of West African, European, mainly British and French, and East Indian cuisine. This creates dynamic meal dishes such as macaroni pie, stewed chicken, rice and peas, hearty fish broths or fish water, hearty soups packed full with fresh locally produced vegetables. St. Lucian cuisine is similar to that in many other Commonwealth Caribbean nations such as Dominica, Jamaica, neighboring Saint Vincent and Trinidad. Typical essential foodstuff are potatoes, onions, celery, thyme, coconut milk, the very hot Scotch bonnet peppers, flour and cornmeal. All mainstream meat and poultry are eaten in St. Lucia. Meat and seafood are normally stewed and browned to create a rich gravy, sometimes served over ground provisions or rice. Due to St. Lucia's small Indo-Caribbean population, curry is very popular. However, due to the blend of cooking styles, curry dishes have a distinct Caribbean twist. In recent years, roti, a flatbread of Indian origin, has become very popular, being imported from the twin island nation of Trinidad and Tobago to the south. This bread is typically served as a fast food meal. The bread itself is very flat, sometimes very thin, and is wrapped around curried vegetables such as chickpeas and potato, seafood such as shrimp and conch, or meat such as chicken, beef, goat and liver.
Tourism.
Tourism is vital to St. Lucia's economy. Its economic importance is expected to continue to increase as the market for bananas becomes more competitive. Tourism tends to be more substantial during the dry season, January to April. St. Lucia tends to be popular due to its tropical weather and scenery and its numerous beaches and resorts. Other tourist attractions include a drive-in volcano, sulfur springs, in Soufriere, the Botanical Gardens, the majestic Twin Peaks, the Pitons, a World Heritage Site, the rainforests, and Pigeon Island National Park, which is home to Fort Rodney, an old British military base. The majority of tourists visit St. Lucia as part of a cruise. Most of their time tends to be spent in Castries, although Soufriere, Marigot Bay and Gros Islet are popular locations to visit.
Gallery.